Okay, day five. There's a few of these, so we're going to keep going. Oh, this one's a juicy one. More effort is not the answer. More of the same just gives you more of the same. Funny that. So when it feels like you're chasing your tail, you're going around in circles, that's because you are, my friend. I know I have had many, many cases of burnout. My first experience with burnout was when I was about 27. I was working as a what was I made probably as a personal assistant, let's say, to the regional manager. So I was working full time. I had also decided that I was going to study. It was my first time back studying after quitting school at 15 with zero qualifications. And I also had three children under 10. So I had a 10-year-old, about a 5-year-old, and Jade was probably about one. We were also renovating, so we lived in a house where we had basically stripped it back to the bones, and we had, five of us living pretty much in a lounge and two bedrooms. And then we also had someone come over who stayed with us, who was supposed to couch surf for like a week, and then ended up staying for about a month. Anyway, old stories. Um, so that year I experienced burnout because I just had so much on my plate. And I remember finishing one of my last exam and coming home and sitting at the table, and I felt like um, my soul had been drawn out of me. I just had this complete blank, uh, and I felt numb. I physically could not feel my body, and probably for about a month or two, is I just didn't want to think about study. I just could not bear the thought of ever having to do that ever again. So I completely burnt myself down to the ground. Now, that was one, I did recover from that. Didn't notice the pattern. Interesting enough, if we talk about the video before this. The next time I experienced it, I was in my early 30s. And at this point, life had changed somewhat. I was going through a miserable divorce. I was in and out of court and custody a lot over a 1 to 2 year period. I was over drinking like you wouldn't believe. That was pretty much my coping mechanism. And then had also just thrown into the mix. I had actually met Dave. So I had all this shit going on in my life, and I wasn't dealing with any of it. I was just masking one problem with another problem with another problem with another problem. It was awful. It was absolutely awful, awful time of my life. All created, right? Taking responsibility for that. Um, but what it did teach me. So that was actually no, that was the second time I experienced it, and then the third time was probably not that long ago, maybe 18 months to 2 years ago, where I had started a new job and working pretty long hours, but shortened days, so not as many days in the week, but longer hours. And in this particular role, it was like I was switched on like 99% of the time. There was no downtime. There was no just checking your phone. There was no Googling what's for dinner on, what's for dinner on the internet. There was none of that. This was just back to back work, hour after hour after hour, for 4 days a week, from pretty much from 7:30 to like 6 o'clock most nights. And so I got myself to this point of burnout where, again, it took a wedding for me to realize. It took me time and space out of my work or out of my role to go away and realize how goddamn tired I was. And so I was trying harder to get all these results, but I was creating this perfect storm of burnout. So working harder did not equal smarter. I needed to change the pattern of what I was trying to achieve, not the pace. And when you think about quantum leaping and about reaching your highest potential, right? True leaps actually come from shifting gears, not about pressing harder on the pedal. You think about when you're driving a car, if you're stuck in third and you're just going harder, 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 and you're pressing harder and harder and harder and harder on the wheel, in third, you're gonna like pop an engine valve, right? You're gonna pop a gasket for sure. That's exactly what happens with burnout. So it's probably a perfect analogy to use, actually. Trying harder is the trap. Really, what it's about is shifting patterns where the leap comes from. And anything that's to do with coaching or to do with human behavior or to do with trauma, everything is linked to patterns. Everything that we do is a pattern. The things that, that the way that I speak is a pattern, the way that I do my hands is a pattern, the way that you wake up in the morning is a pattern, everything is a pattern. And so we just get to look at our patterns and go, is this pattern making me think that I'm working harder? Like, am I working harder with this pattern? Or what if I could slow down that pattern or shift that pattern and try something new and actually work smarter rather than harder? Food for thought. So if you have been stuck in effort mode where you are just going, 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 doing, 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 this is your sign that you might just need to leap a little bit differently. So, invitation for you, my friend, is to subscribe and join Unpaught Potential. There is a link below.